Tango 1 at the top, we are at Pablo Cuckoo. 10-4, Tango 1, you have control. Tango 1 copy. Stand by. Stand by.
Integrity, passion, resilience. That's what this place was built on. That's what our community is founded on. Don't act like the example, just be the example. This is the home of the greatest fitness community in the world. We're trying to create strong, able bodies, resilient to injury with a gas tank to get shit done. If there's one thing from this podcast, it's about taking immediate action. Find the problem, fix the problem. This is your opportunity. It's either a hell yes or a fuck no. It's that simple. You're ruining the Tango 1 podcast. Now is the time to take action. Now's the time to do more and be more.
All right, let's get going here in a second. I just gotta take my HQ nutrition, my focus, the topics that I take every single time I shoot. Much like the guest that I'm about to introduce you, I've taken a lot of blows to my head over my life, and I find that all this vitamin B and the lion's mane and stuff just helps me to focus and really dial it in. If you guys are looking for that, you can just go on to HQ's website and use code TANGO15. So my guest today is my longtime friend, Randy Reyes. I don't need to really pull up his bio because I know him like the back of my hand. He is one of my longest time friends. He's living in Austin, Texas right now. This guy has lived quite the exciting life all over the place in the United States. He is one of the, I would call him a self-made hustler. He really doesn't think that he had the resume to get on my show, but I think he's lived one of the most interesting lives of anybody I know. And I have known him since basically we were 9-10 years old. He's part of the K9 Posse that you guys have heard me talk about on this show before. And I'm super happy to have you here, Randy. So thanks for joining me on the Tango 1 podcast.
Oh, awesome. Thanks for having me. Big fan. Long-time listener.
Long-time listener. First-time caller.
First-time caller.
Just give me 1 second. I'm just going to kill this heat here, man. It's fun snowing here today. Is it warm there?
Yeah, it's like 70 here.
Jealous. All right, there we go. Super professional show. Okay, so welcome to Tango 1 podcast, everybody. I'm your host, Tony Smith. You guys should know that by now. And I am here. I bring my guests and myself in here every week to inspire you to do more and be more. Do more for others, be more for yourself, and to take action on your weaknesses. And if there's anybody in my life that has definitely taken action on his goals, it is this guy right here, Randy Reyes. So, Randy, I want to talk to you today about a bunch of stuff. I mean, pursuing the life you wanted is one of the ones. Perseverance and taking risks, because I think our friend group is pretty crazy about the risks we've taken, but you're the one who started it all, really, because you're the first one to kind of chase your dream when you moved away. I mean, let's just start right there, man. We went way back in high school, and I think we're a minute out of high school, and you say you're moving to Chicago to join, Carlson Gracie?
When we were young, and we all know this story, Phil and I, and we would do a lot of jujitsu and stuff. We'd go to those seminars, and when I was 19 or 18, I thought ultimate fighting would be cool. So I ultimately kind of looked at the things you needed to do, and looking back, you're just young and you're ignorant, but at least you're kind of leading into your dreams kind of thing. I thought, what would be a quick path to that? And so my sister was going to chiropractic school in Chicago.
I forgot about that connection. Right, okay.
Yeah, and that's how I basically got out there. So she was going out there. We would visit every now and then, and they had a school out there, a jiu-jitsu school, which were hard to come by. I want to say 20 years ago. I mean, even more 23 years ago, because we're 43 now. Yeah, they're hard to come by. So it was the only one there. So I just thought to myself, well, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I always kind of knew I had a backup plan to work where my mom worked. My mom was a customs officer in Windsor forever. That was always kind of the side backup plan, because in high school, I wasn't the most studious. Let's just say I just sucked at school.
For those listening, that's not an exaggeration.
Yeah, I feel like I got by with charm. I think a lot of us did. You just got by with charm. It wasn't in the cards for me. It was something that didn't appeal to me. So I basically moved in with my sister. She lived in Lincoln Park, kind of outside of the outskirts of downtown Chicago. And I basically went to, I started jujitsu. So I was 19, started jujitsu. The way I paid the bills was I got a job at Starbucks. I also, what did I do? I worked at a pro shop in like a health club. And I also worked at Outback Steakhouse. So this is nothing new for me. I've always, one of our oldest stories is that I've had lots of jobs, so I have lots of experience doing different things.
So Randy's had the most jobs of anybody I know in the world, and I think we need to like paint the picture for people. I don't know how old all the listeners are. I assume they're all around our age, but when you moved there, the UFC did not exist, right? This was like when they're on video tapes. I mean, what were we watching? It was like
we would have to get them from Blockbuster or whatever video store that would have them. They would have the first 5. Unless we were at our buddy's house who had stolen satellite or whatever.
Right.
Satellite, if you will.
Like they fought in the octagon, but there was no weight classes. There was no rules. Like you were pulling hair. We saw people's arms get broken.
Yeah.
And just and Starbucks was probably brand new to the world when you moved to Chicago. Like that's how long ago we're talking. And, the canine posse we referred to, just so people have an idea what that is. That was, all of us knew each other from grade school for the most part. And then we all split apart, went to different high schools. And I remember meeting up with Mikey, who I'm actually going to meet up with a drink after we get off this one. And me and him and Scotty, who now lives in Australia, and we met up and like, hey, let's just all transfer to Villanova. Scotty was. And then Phil decided to come, you decided to come, and then it was like we all get to high school, but you know how it is in high school now, it's grade 10, everybody knew each other except for nobody knew us.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to sit with us. There's all these like transfer jocks and 3 or 4 brown guys.
The brown guys had it rough.
And that's how it was. And then, by the end of it, we were running that place, I guess, for lack of a better word. So
correct me if I'm wrong. Sorry, don't mean to interrupt.
No, go.
LaSalle, you and Phil went to LaSalle, right?
That's
am I saying that right? LaSalle is the brown and orange. Yeah. I forgot about that.
So for you guys not listening, Randy's Filipino, and the Bill that we're talking about Filipino, and Urban, who's part of that crew, is will be one who's editing this video and everything for me, and he's also Filipino. So we had a good jokes going on that we were. I was half Filipino growing up because I spent so much time between everybody's houses. I could do the accent still to this day if I needed to, right?
I know, right? Yeah, it's kind of hilarious, right? Like.
Yeah, so you go up there for jits, man, and then I remember it's me and Mikey decide we are going to make the trip down to visit you. Yeah. And this is before, this is so old. It's not that long ago, but it's so technology.
20 years ago.
Wild.
Yeah.
We print out the MapQuest directions, and I remember driving there. It was insane. My parents let me drive the D Nasty down there, the old Chrysler Dynasty, and we pulled into your dorm, and we had to do the Chicago bump to park, so we had to actually back to the car behind you, hit the car. That's how tight it was.
This is when I was in college still.
Yeah, we brought you one Molson Canadian.
I remember.
The guy fucking seized it.
Yeah, I remember that. It was one Molson Canadian and a little bit of Crown. And yeah, you visited. I went, so to dial back the story, horrible grades. Couldn't get into any university, and this was the only university that would take me in Chicago. It's called North Park University. It was like a born-again Christian school or something. It was very religious, and that's why there was no booze. The kids went to church on Thursday nights. And again, if you're Canadian listening to this, you're 19 in Canada, right? Your life is amazing when it all opens up, if you didn't have fake ID. And I moved to this place that's just really Christian, and you're not used to it because the Americans are very, I don't even know what the word, they kind of not overboard, but just overzealous with things. So it was just really Christian based. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it was like a dry campus. Kids went to church for fun. It was a weird fit.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Americans versus Canadians. I guess the Americans are all in. Whatever they're doing, they are all in on it. And that we definitely felt that, and we went out and we tore that city up. I remember coming home on the L train, and a bunch of kids from LaSalle, Ontario, and you telling me we're all falling asleep because we're half in the bag or fully in the bag, and you're like, gotta sleep with your hands in your pockets or you're gonna get robbed. And we woke up at the end. It was the last stop of the L train. Hiked it back to your place, but man, what a good time. I remember coming to watch you fight, and that's when like we said, our experience with jiu-jitsu at that point was watching these old videos, and then we would barricade ourselves in Mikey's basement bedroom and literally fight to what seemed like near death at those times. And people thought we were crazy. And then here you are now rolling with these guys and the Gracie family. Obviously now everybody knows them, right? Yeah. But that was some intense stuff to watch. I remember just watching you get like, oh my God. So,
I remember your facial like
this is too much, this guy.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So that's how that kind of started. And so I pursued that. And at the time, you know, you're just working minimum wage jobs and you're doing what you loved. Because I really think when you're young, like, you know, you have these paths, right? Especially where we're from. Like, you're going to go to St. Clair College, you're going to University of Windsor. If your grades are good and you get a good enough GPA, then you're going to get a good job. But again, kind of dialing back to it, I just never had the grades or I had the patience to get the grades. It didn't seem like an out for me. So I worked these service jobs. I would basically open Starbucks at, I think it was like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. Do that until 10. I think I would go to the gym because I need to lose weight because I think I was walking around at 200 and they wanted me at like 155. And then after the gym, after Bally's Total Fitness, I don't know if you remember that gym, that used to be open, that used to be a big chain. I would go to jiu-jitsu at lunch or like 1 o'clock, 1 to 3, and then get back at 4, it was either the pro shop job or waiting tables at Outback Steakhouse, and I'd do that, I think, until like 6 o'clock or something like that, and then I'd go back to jiu-jitsu at night. It was just like the cycle of, you know, just doing that. But I ultimately left it, you know, when I realized there was no money in it, because you need to pursue something else, and I think that's what got me into personal training. When I went from like 200 to like 155, I did that Body for Life book, Bill Phillips.
Body for Life? Oh my God, we're bringing it all back today.
That's, you know, when creatine was popular and all the supplements, I did that program. And I like the way it kind of changed me and people I was hanging out with at the time. Actually, they live here now. One of my friend's brothers was like, hey, help me lose weight. You know, what did you do? I'm like, hey, I just got it from this book. So I just go and work out with him. And like, he went from, I think, like 220 down to like 170 and became a whole new person. And I really like that feeling. And you probably can attest to it too. You know, you see it every day in your business and like, you know, all the posts and all the lives you change when people get fit. It hit me hard. It was like, oh, this is kind of neat, you know? And so I pursued being basically a personal trainer for, I was doing maybe 20. So I started jiu-jitsu when I was 19. I quit when I was 25. And then I was a personal trainer from till I was 25 until I was 30, I think.
You know, like you've always been like the hype man for all of us. And I can imagine you with your clients. But you know what, one thing I've always noticed where you've always been kind of ahead of the curve in terms of, you know, like you started loving jiu-jitsu and getting into jiu-jitsu before the UFC blew up, before people knew about it. When you got into personal training, it wasn't like, now I feel like every other person is a personal trainer or has a personal trainer. And even some of the methods you were using, like you were using chains and bands and prowlers before they were mainstream in gyms. Like now that's in every gym. Like, you know, maybe not chains, but you know what I'm saying? Like most people are using those types of dynamic methods and, you know, the accommodating resistance, all those things, prowlers. I mean, you had a prowler before I'd ever seen. Like, what is this guy?
I used to keep it in the neon, remember, in the back?
Yeah, drive it around.
Back seat. And like, yeah. So that all came about because as I was kind of reading through, I think it was Muscle and Fitness was the magazine. Charles Poliquin ended up being a big influence on my life. And this kind of, if we're kind of segueing into certain things, it's like, I learned very early on that you needed to hire mentors or hire coaches to tell you what to do, because I didn't go the book route. I wasn't in school. I wasn't around those people. Not that I ever felt bad about it, but like thinking back on it, it's like, oh, of course that's what you would do. That's the next alternative because I'm not passing tests. I'm not sitting with professors. You know, you got to learn out there from people that you like. So I would see this guy's articles all the time. And I liked the process and how it kind of all fit together. You know, there was a great theory behind it. And I remember, I think it was one of the books. I bought all his books, and I think there was like some email address or like a mailing list, like find the Paul and Quinn coach in your area. And again, I was broke, man. Like you think back, like when you're 25. Again, 25 that sounds old now, but back then I was still young. I was waiting tables at a 24-hour, what was it, 24-hour or like a nightclub kind of barish kind of thing, making maybe $100 a night. Again, you're nodding because we used to get to all the bars.
Yeah, I remember being there eating steak, smoking what are those cigarettes that taste like mint? I was like, what is going on in my life? Yeah. Yeah, but man, you were like ahead of the curve. And even now to this day, like moving to Austin, like you did it before all these famous people did. Like, Joe Rogan, all these guys like moved to Austin, Texas, and you were like 6 months ahead of them. Like you look like a genius, especially the way you were in real estate, especially the way it blew up out there. Yeah, I always respected that about you. You always like invested in yourself and into coaches. Paul Quinn, again ahead of the curve. Like Paul Quinn was a big name, but he wasn't. Now he's a legend. And you were in with him, and you were sending me information, and you were sending me Thibodeau information, like. These guys are like goats now, right? And rest in peace for Paul Quinn, but a couple of Canadians too, goats in the fitness industry. And you're always ahead of that. And I always respected that about you. And you're like pursuing the life that you wanted. Like it was like nobody would tell you. Like, and I think we tried. Like you're crazy. Are you moving to where? And now you're moving to Washington, and now you're moving from there to wherever the fuck you were in Baltimore or something outside. Like, you were all over the place and constantly and always like this. Like no matter, even when, like, that's one thing I wanted to ask you about, like the ebbs and flows, the lows and the highs. Like you talked about, being broke and having shitty jobs a lot of times in your life, and then climbing back up to, right now where I don't want to talk about your finances, but you're sitting in a very comfortable, financially, you seem to be in a very comfortable position. And that's unreal. Like, how did you always weather the lows, but always keep yourself in such a good headspace?
That's a good question. I think a lot of it comes down to just the values that we had growing up. I mean, and you and I kind of talk about this. We haven't kind of talked about it like publicly like this, but like
the whole world, or 200 viewers.
It's just growing up, I had a good circle of friends. And as you read, and one of the things I've been doing kind of lately is like, I've been kind of dissecting and dialing backwards, like how I became successful. Because before when you're broke and you're just reading books and like trying to figure out the pattern to kind of be successful. Now that, again, what is success? It's a different definition for everybody, but I've achieved a lot of the targets that I really wanted, which is a success for me. Like, one of those things, I'm like definitely not like a super millionaire or anything like that, but I definitely achieved what I wanted to do, kind of thing. So I kind of dialed it back, because you're right, it was big ebbs and flows. And so one of the things, who was talking about it? I don't know. I want to say it's Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson is something I've been following him a lot over the last, I want to say 2.5 years. Just kind of dialing back, like how to build yourself up. But there's something that was said, or some sales book I read that talked about, like, you can determine someone's character, or you can kind of read somebody by figuring out how they grew up. So I don't know if it came from a sales book or whatever, but it's like, and again, stop me if I'm going on a tangent, but when I'm like negotiating with a realtor or somebody tough, right? If I'm trying to get a job, I'll go on someone, like, people leave clues online. It's kind of crazy what everybody posts, but you can go to someone's LinkedIn and you can see like where they grew up, where they went to school, what high school they went to. Maybe you highlight things and you can find out patterns, and you can see pictures of their lives, and you can almost like profile who that person was, And so when you're talking to them, you can kind of use different language. So if they're military, or very Christian, or I don't know, they give to a certain like charity, like there's a vocabulary that they use. And so to easily connect with someone, I kind of dial it backwards that way. So I realized, again, kind of getting back to the point, is I realized a big core of my foundation is the guys I grew up with. Like literally our 6 close friends growing up the way we did created a character foundation for me, and almost like a standard, if you will. Like, we were all very confident. Going back to story, you're right. Like no one would sit with us. We were kind of awkward, or we were the new kids or whatever. And then by the end, you know, we were socially accepted by everybody, and you know, we were up on that kind of hierarchy, I guess you will, if you will, you know.
Yeah, your high school cafeteria type thing, right?
Yeah, and just the small little lessons that were given during that time, like you know, we were always really good friends to each other. We still are now. I mean, I really feel like I can just call anybody anytime and have a conversation with anybody. I mean, we have that group text going on, but it's just the standards and the moral character that I learned. I don't even call it a brotherhood, but it is like a brotherhood because I feel like we're brothers. Because side note of myself, like I grew up with a single mom. My sister and I are close, but we didn't have much kind of family around, and I didn't really have any male influences, you know. And I spoke to this to your dad. Me and your dad and your mom had a dinner in DC. And I got to kind of tell him as an adult, like, man, you know, it was cool that you let me kind of swim in your pool, and you'd feed me dinner sometimes when I was, you know, by myself or whatever, because my mom was working all the time. But those are the kind of things I just learned all the lessons on how to treat people that way. And I found this got me so far in life. Like it doesn't sound ridiculous, but those were the core. So going back to the ebbs and flows, like when I was down, and I can give you a perfect example of this. So when I was separated from my wife and my child in Pennsylvania for like 4 years by myself, and we can get into that story. It's something, I don't know if anyone's ever kind of gone through it, but I was learning how to kind of sell homes and all that. And I was by myself in the middle of nowhere, like a truck stop kind of town, like the kind of truck stop town that you stop at when you're driving to Toronto or London, you know, the one Tim Hortons on the corner in the gas station. I was stuck in one of those towns. And, you know, I wanted to quit. You know, I really wanted to quit. And it was one of those things where I would picture myself sitting at your house, or if we're all sitting around together, like we always kind of hang out. And it was more towards like you, because you've always been very inspirational to everybody. And you've always kind of called it like it was. You're never like mean or cruel, but I'm going to be honest with you right now because I'm your friend and I'm going to be honest with you. And that's what I appreciate about you a lot. Like you just shoot it straight. And I would picture myself telling you like, oh, Tone, it's lonely over there, man. I couldn't do it. And like, I had no one to hang out with. And you're like, oh, Uncle Sana was gone and this and that. I would just picture the disgusted look on your face going like, what are you, some kind of P word? No. and that thought in my mind, I was like, I can't do that. I can't do that ever. Because one, I'll never hear the end of it. And two, like, I got this. I got this. I know I got this. There's other ways out, but I'm not going to quit, you know?
Yes,
Tone wouldn't quit. So-and-so wouldn't quit. Like, I know Scotty wouldn't quit. Like, he wouldn't quit, you know? You would help me figure out the problem and you'd make me go back out there. That's what you would do. I mean, that's what I would do to you guys. I'd help, you know, listen, cool. Now, what are you going to do about it? We were never victims. Like, I've known you your whole life. Like, we have no victim mentality in us. Not to get kind of technical with, you know, with that kind of thing, but it was never a thing.
No, I think that's an important trait. I appreciate all the nice things you said too, obviously. Thank you. But when it comes to like, I hate that. I mean, I hate the victim mentality, especially like my old job. I saw some real victims, you know, I saw some people that were in, you know, it was rough for you. It was not a joke. Like we were, you know, it couldn't have been easy. Like all your friends living in these, like, you know, my kid, his parents had a huge house and like you're living in a little apartment, your mom's working all the time.
Yeah, Victory Street by the tracks, man.
You know, but like at the end of the day, like, is that fucking rough compared to like your Filipino? Like, look at the people that are living in like, you know, in Manila right now. Like, you know, some of the people that are living like that's like, there's some victims there. You know, we're not it. And I think too many people, it drives me crazy. You're not a big social media guy, but I hate the social media posts where, you know, everybody said I couldn't, but I did. You know, fuck, nobody said that, man. Like, fucking who said that? Like, two people that you barely know said that. Most people in your life should be telling you that you can.
Yeah.
Or you can, if you make a little right-hand turn here, or like reminding you of your goals. Most people are like that. And if they're not, you need to cut them out of your life. And I think that was always us, this crew of guys. Like every single one of us is, you know, like you said, success is measured different. We're not talking millionaires, and we don't even care about that. That's another beauty thing about all of our friends. Yeah. Nobody gives a fuck about that stuff. It's like everybody's become successful in their own way. And success meaning we're all living pretty damn happy lives. Yeah. That at the end of the day. And with none of us, well, I should, Cal will get mad if he hears this. But none of us were good in school. Maybe Cal, maybe Phil a little bit. But like, none of us really gave her in school. We all kind of went our different routes to figure things out. And at every point in our lives, we all had lows. And, you know, there was times where you know, I remember going to Chicago and you paying for everything. I remember going to Vegas and me paying for everything for somebody else. And it was just, you know, we just did what we had to do to make sure all of us were there and all of us were together no matter what we had to do. Like, hey, don't worry, things are good for me. Mikey was the best for that. You know, he had his job, youngest. You know, don't worry, I've got it. And we probably still all owe him that money.
I owe him so much money. But it's funny that you mentioned that. Like, that's where I learned it from. Mikey would do that. And I'm like, oh, awesome. And you never hear a thing about it. Like, if you had the money, you'd pay him and it was cool. You wouldn't take advantage of him, but like who has cash? And like, he would come through that way and like,
I mean, I'll cut you off there because now being a little bit older, I'm going to meet him for I'm totally letting him buy.
Like, are you like
the gym's been closed for 2 years?
But that's how I kind of looked at it. I looked at it as I pictured myself telling everybody how I failed, how I quit, and how I didn't want to go back. And I would think about the criticism I would hear and how like it would just be the worst for me. Again, I don't know why it sounds silly, but I've lived my life through those values, and I'm just like, I'm tougher than this. I'm from Windsor, man. I'm a little South boy.
Yeah, it's the 519 grind, man. Like at the end of the day, that's how we did it, and that's how people do it around here. And it's important lessons for anybody listening is like Randy hit on something, and I talk about it all the time, the tactical life stuff. And in the gym, the 6-week transformation going on right now is like, if you have goals, tell people that you care about those goals. Like tell somebody that you respect and that you don't want to let down, because it is way easier to let yourself down than it is to let those people down. You know, like, so like if your goal is to, you know, gain 10, you know, pounds of muscle or lose 10 pounds of fat, whatever, tell people that you care about, because you will not want to see that person again in 3 months. Be like, you know, right? Like that's the kind of people that like keeping these things to yourself. Like I hate the word manifest. I don't hate it. I think it's being like wrongly construed to the new generation, like, or wrongly explained. Like there's manifest, which is like Randy wants to go to, you know, do this in Chicago, wants to go do jiu-jitsu in Chicago, to outcome, which is like actually getting there, and in between a whole lot of fucking work to get that. Like, and I think like that's what that manifestation is. That part of that manifestation is telling your friends, and then that helps when you're in the lowest, toughest times to dig and do the work that's going to get you to the outcome of that manifestation, right? I think that's where people are could really use a boost and maybe a different outlook on it. So I love that you said that. I don't think it's in any way that's you know, getting too deep or too lectured. I think it's beautiful, man.
And as I've been deconstructing, like, how did I get here and stuff, like, you know, you hear a lot about the people that you hang out with. You're the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most. I think one thing is that it's important. I do it now. I keep a very small circle. Like, hang out with people that will make you better. Bar none. Like that, it just makes the biggest difference. You guys feed off each other. And I know when we were young, that's basically what we did. And even now, like I have like 2 really good friends in Austin. That's the only people we hang out with. We socialize and we network, but there's just 2 steady ones. It's like I go over this one guy's house. Like I used to go over Mikey's house all the time.
Yeah, and I think like even that's a lesson. Like you talked about my parents, his parents, your mom. Like, you know, all of us, Phil's parents. Like now we're those people. Like our parents were those people. You know, having a kid over for dinner, a friend of your sons or a friend of your daughters or whatever that might be, having them over for dinner and giving to them, like, without really, I mean, what my parents aren't like giving you, like they're giving you like a burger and fry, whatever the hell we're eating.
Yeah, we're eating your pasta or whatever.
But like what you're doing, you maybe don't realize the influence that you're having on somebody, right? And then, like that years later, you're speaking of my parents and Mikey's parents as great influences in your life. and then you were able to take my, I mean, one of the cool things about Randy is because he's lived so many places, like when people travel, you're like, hey, go visit Randy. And, you're picking them up at their hotel and taking them out of a town, just like you would for me. And my mom and dad have loved that. They have the funniest Randy stories. Randy used to drive in this little was it Jeep Comanche or something?
It was a Sonoma pickup truck that could fit 3 people, man.
And I can just picture you,
truck.
My mom and dad, you're picking them up. You've got the Discman with Notorious or Bone Dug and Hardy blaring on the mic, and it's sliding all around, and you're the worst driver any of us have ever met. That's the actual truth. That wasn't in the non-disclosure, by the way. And that's not even an Asian joke, bro. That is the absolute fucking truth. And yeah, I can just picture you whipping through the I-75 and I-94 down in Chicago with my mom and dad holding on for dear life, but then enjoying and loving dinner together, man. And I don't know how many times you hosted. I've been down there for SWAT conferences, and you've taken me and my guys out, and then even all of us last year or 2 years ago, right before COVID. Scotty coming in from Australia, you flying in from Texas, all of us coming up from Canada, Mark coming up from Columbus, and all meeting for we called it the one night only. One night of absolute chaos in Chicago at a beautiful place. I mean, I live for this stuff, man. So you talked about, you're now a father of two little girls.
Yeah, two little girls.
And also, Randy, you were ahead of the pack when you fell in love and you got married, and it was before Kazakhstan became very, very popular. I know your wife hates
it. Is it popular now?
Well, because of the movie, it became super popular. But funny fact already is, what did you get? You got a dowry, and it's waiting for you in Kazakhstan if you ever go to it.
I hope. That'd be amazing.
So yeah, I mean, I don't want to get too much into the family. I know how much you love, how much means you, but what I love is watching how you are raising your kids in the same manner that you want to live your life now. You've joined them into this. I want to talk about the school because I think it is the coolest thing, being a homeschool family right now. And and I saw a great quote that came across, and it said, homeschooling has always been a thing. School was the experiment. Right? So I think a lot of schools, I think there's different ways of learning. And tell me about this Tim Kennedy school you signed the girls up for. Or is it just Cam going there so far?
No, both girls go there. So we're part of this school called Apogee. It was founded by Tim Kennedy. So if any of your listeners are probably familiar with who he is an ex-UFC fighter, Army Ranger sniper. The best way to describe him is if G.I. Joe was real, it would be this guy. He has 8 businesses. He reminds me a lot of yourself, man. In all honesty, I really, when you guys come down to visit, I love for you guys to connect. But we started them in, I think it was last October, I think it was. So what was going on, and again, I'm sure it's worse in Canada. They're making the kids wear the masks in schools, really separated when they were playing on the playground. They make these almost hopscotch boxes, and they make them stand in the box or in the circle. I don't know. So the way it works in Texas is you have your subdivision, and then there's a school in the neighborhood kind of thing. So there's a school probably a kilometer away from us right now. It kept getting shut down because another kid would get COVID. So my daughter was just sitting at home bored. She wasn't stimulated whatsoever. She'd play with her sister, but the rest of the time she's sitting there watching cartoons. And so a good friend of mine is friends with Tim Kennedy, and I knew kind of about him. I saw him on a Joe Rogan podcast, and I thought, oh, wow, I really like that guy's business model, protecting your family, freedom, things like that. But I never thought too much about it. So I started following him on Instagram, and I saw this school, and it just opened up, and I was looking at the ideas of it, and what it is, it's called the acted method, or basically the Socratic method. And what they do is they teach kids how to critically think. So I kind of parent my kids that way. How do you turn on the TV? Well, let's look at it together. How do you think we turn on the TV? And I would break down the steps, and my daughter would get super annoyed, my oldest. She's like, just tell me the answer. I'm just I'm not going to tell you anything. And then I go, and I always give her examples she's like, why do I got to learn how to read? Or why do I have to learn numbers? I'm because when Papa's old, he needs someone to take care of him. And if you don't have skill sets, and we go somewhere, and let's say I want to get a Whopper, and you get me a chicken sandwich, I'm going to be very upset. Like, I just need you to take care of me when I'm old. And to do that, you need skill sets. And she like takes it in. She's like, okay, that makes sense. But all joking aside, we brought her there. My daughter's really introverted. She doesn't make friends very easy. She's a thinker like me. She's like a daydreamer. I see, you see yourself in your kids, right? Like you see their personalities. Even though kids are different, like you see your personality traits in them. And I was kind of worried because she could never make friends and she could never connect with anybody. So I thought she was going to get bullied. And that's kind of one of my big fears. And so regular school wasn't doing it for her. I'd ask her, hey, what's going on at school? Nothing. Some guy was talking about butts all day. It's like, okay. Well, the next day, how was school? Oh, nothing. Some kid was taking his note. Like, oh my God, like you're not learning anything. And the class sizes are pretty big here. They're like 30 kids to one teacher. And it was just kind of, I felt her dying intellectually. Like she just wasn't talking or whatever. So, or it just had anything great to say kind of thing and would kind of act out. So we sent her to this school and we did the interview process and, watched the principal's TED talk and stuff like that and interviewed and we got in and Cam started school. And so the school doesn't have any grades. They have tasks. They're called badges that they have to earn. But they basically work on, what they're interested in. So if you're interested in piano, they're called guides or the teachers will like help the kid like figure out how to play piano. It's almost like two bumpers kind of thing. Like if you're interested in this thing and you're veering off, the guide will help you kind of figure it out. And with today's technology, YouTube, the internet, you can figure out anything. Like when we were kids, we didn't have that. You had to, read a book or you learn how to play piano. You had a guy coming to your house on Thursday night before you could go play out with your friends kind of thing. And your friends would be waiting for you if you didn't have to cut the grass, Yeah. But my daughter taught herself piano through this school and like had a big concert, not a big concert, but she played in front of like 80 adults and like she played the Chandelier song and just like rocked the house, like no sheet music, just looking up. I'll have to send you the video, but I was pretty proud.
Danny showed me a little clip of that. And
I think I sent it to Danny. Yeah.
She was singing with Tim Kennedy too, right?
There was one where she's sitting with Tim Kennedy, like they're playing piano. They're like buddies. It's hilarious. I show her like Tim's like fights and stuff and what he does, and she's like, "Mr. Tim does that." Anyways, what was it? So that's what it is. They're just basically asking the kids, like, how would you solve this problem? You have this badge you have to earn, a book reading badge. You have to read 3 books, or you have to talk about where you come from. How are you going to present this, and how are you going to do it? And so they have this really interesting curriculum. Like I talked to Danny about this yet, but I'm sure she would be interested, or both of you guys would be interested. Like they do these meetings in the mornings for these kids. Like the guide will sit down with the kids and like, let's plan your day. What are you going to do? It's like a high-end business meeting, but for like elementary school kids.
I like it. I like it. I should open one of these, man.
Yeah, no, look into it, man. Acting, man. And they give them tasks. They're like, okay, well, if this is your goal, what are the tasks that you have to complete today in order to get to your task or get to your target?
I mean, that is exactly what I do with businesses now. Like that's exactly how I go into businesses and like bring my, my tactical background, my SWAT background into a business. Like, so that's why I think we run so efficiently here at the Garage Gym. Yeah. And so now I've started going to business and teaching this. Now they're teaching that to kids. Like how phenomenal of an idea is that?
Oh,
if
like, her mind
is talk about manifestation and outcome, right? So, and bridging that gap through work, but through that work, if you have like those tasks planned out, and super gratifying for an adult, let alone a child, to like map out. Because like when the goal is massive, it can be overwhelming. When we're looking at little steps, like I want to lose, like we'll go back to losing weight. I want to lose 10 pounds. First step, buy healthy groceries. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's a win. It's a win. It's a win. And the wanting to get wins just keeps, it's addictive, right? That's an incredible, that was really, apogee, like that, what that means, eh? It's like the highest point in an orbit or like the culmination of like, of something. like the ultimate climax or something. That's amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah, Tim, I didn't read the definition of it, but Tim was talking about it. It means victory. It's like a military thing.
Yeah.
It means success. And he calls it, the students are called heroes, and they're on the hero's journey. And it's a beautiful thing, man. And you had a post on Instagram or something, I forget what it was, but you were talking about like doing a list or planning your day. So you're not reacting. You're just checking it off. And I think I was talking to Cam. I'm like, oh man, you do that? I do that kind of when I have a big day, but I don't do it every day.
Yeah, proactive versus reactive, man.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like if you have a plan, you're always going to, you know, like you go to a cottage with your family, and you should. I mean, it's not about being paranoid. It's about planning and protecting your family and making sure you're safe. You should, like, okay, if something happens, the first aid kit is here. I have the means to handle it. The hospital is here. The car keys will be here. And then, you know what? Fuck, if nothing happens, big deal. I mean, great, obviously great. But if something does happen, you're already proactively like 3 steps ahead that you would have been. Like, action beats reaction every single time. And so the better you plan you have, the better chance. That's outstanding if they're teaching that to children, man.
Yeah, it's been really great for her. She's opened up as a person. I was actually on so we had an open house, I think it was last Friday. I was on a panel, so they had like parents of the students. I think there was 5 of us, and her principal or the head person called her like a shining star kind of thing. Again, you like getting cool things for your kids and all that, or cool messages from the teachers from your kids and all that. But Cam is like 180 turned around, like is opinionated, can have great conversations. She's still herself. She's shy, but she's not as shy anymore. She has tons of friends. She's a leader in the group. So what I like about the school is they mix the ages. So it's not just all 10-year-olds. It's like 12-year-olds with 10-year-olds with 8-year-olds. And they have an elementary school and they have a middle school. But what happens is the kids learn from each other through just pure interaction. Like, I'm not going to act out and be a jackass because the kids won't want to play with me, you know? And the other kids will hold them accountable. But even like school and tasks, like, again, there's no grades, there's no homework, but you can work at home if you want to earn that badge and be ranked on this. They have basically this badge ranking list of achievements, like kind of like Xbox, if you will, with all the kids' names and all the different badges. And like, there's a kid with 1 badge and the kid with like 20 badges kind of thing. And the kids naturally gravitate and want to compete for it. And it's a beautiful thing. And they all help each other. And it's just been great. So I got to sit on this panel because we're like one of the founding families. And I'm really supporting that school too. I'm supporting their mission. I'm using kind of like, again, if they need someone to talk, need someone to sell something, or need something to donate, like I'm really, one of the things I'm getting into as like a father is just like supporting my community and protecting my family and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, no, it's been great. And then Ani just joined it. I think it's been 2 months because she was just bored at home. She had no one to talk to. So she's been with the little kids, and she's like the opposite of the Cam, just really personable, makes friends really easy, but she's now interacting with them. But they behave, and I don't get any kind of, like, nobody's spazzing out at school or anything. That the teachers generally enjoy them. And they're just growing into just like kids that you want to talk to. Like when they're doing something unacceptable, kids are going to be bad. Let's just face it. We're all bad kids, some in one way or another. But the way we treat them at home is like, if you're doing something unacceptable, I'm going to let you know. Why are you letting me know? Because when you go out there in the world, no one's going to want to be around you. It's going to cause antisocial behavior. And parents, people just, you won't get it. You won't click with people. So if you're doing something that I don't like, I will tell you and why you're doing it. And if you keep doing it, like, no one's going to want to be around you. Like, a good example is when we're playing board games. Ani's kind of young. But if she starts acting out because she's losing, I'm like, all right, game's over. Well, why? Why would I want to play with you? Like, so she calms kind of down and she gets it now, kind of thing. It's not her way or the highway, but I don't know. Apogee's been a big life changer for us, and it's been really good.
I love to hear that, man. It's like anybody listening can kind of relate. It's hard to, like, you know, forever, I think when I look at you and we have conversations, we'll forever be 25, right? And it's so, you saying that you're on a parent council. It's like,
no, really?
What? Like, Which is, I'm so happy to hear you say that stuff. And I love hearing that. And you know what? I don't have daughters, and I'm always talking about raising young sons to be the warrior protector that they should be, and that I think is innate inside all young boys. But I can only imagine as a father to daughters how important it is to make sure that your daughter is opinionated, has the social skills and confidence. Seeing grown women in this gym and understanding the problems they have with the scales and with self-image. I love to hear this kind of stuff, because what I've seen some people struggle with today is all coming back. Not probably, I would assume it's all coming back from when they were, Cam's age, right? It's just that it's the building blocks of foundations to that, the warrior spirit that's going to be in that young girl to be woman, to be mother at one point, right? It's incredible.
One of the cool things they do at their school too is they have a speaker come in every Friday. That's a special, that's a successful in their field kind of thing. So they'll have a lawyer, a doctor, they have police officers. One time they had, do you know who JP Awakens is? He does all that funny, he's like a workout guy, but he does a lot of funny political satire stuff. I don't know. He's been on Rogan a couple times, but he's like a YouTube star. He's based in Austin. They had that guy come out. The kids are like, how do you become a YouTube star? What traits do you need? And just with other stuff, like how do you become a successful lawyer? What happens there? And they're learning, your parents can only tell you so much. Your teachers can only tell you so much. They're learning through strangers okay, I got to work hard. I got to put the work in. There's this constant message of do the work and things will happen. You can't just wish things kind of thing. So, what I like is every time they have a speaker, Cam, if I'm driving, I always pick her up from school, or most of the time. She's always like, they say a lot of things you say, Papa, all the time. I'm like, awesome.
Yes. It's so funny, man. I even find that at the gym. I'll repeat the same thing about bench press or squat, such a way less deep than what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
But then they'll go and they'll hear from another coach or somebody on Instagram. They're like, oh, right, rip the floor apart, brace your belly. I'm like, yeah, let's talk. I've been saying this for 5 years. You've been coming here. I'm going to cut you off and read this ad, and then I want to just have a little bit of fun. We've been too deep for our conversation. So this podcast is sponsored by my good friends Ian and Kara Murray of Murray Insurance. They are Southwestern Ontario's #1 ranked Desjardins insurance agency, and they're owned by Garage Gym, Kingsville OGs, Ian and Kara. Their team prides themselves on many of the high standards of Garage Gym members have come to expect, and they're experts in their industry with a combined over 100 years of experience in their office. They have the best customer service. They have claims concierge service, and that is exclusive to their clients. And the best part about these guys is they focus on their community, employing local team members and investing and supporting back into the Essex County community. Like Randy talked about, that is such an important quality to have. So if you want to, they're a one-stop shop. If you want to get a hold of them, you give their team a call at 519-733-2331 or check them out at murrayinsurance.ca. So, man, the Protector, I love that this is a new thing for you, or maybe a new thing that you've been talking about more so. You've been investing into yourself and learning, skills. You had the fighting skills. They're probably a little rusty, but they're coming back as you've entered you're now doing jiu-jitsu again with some Kennedy at his Sheepdog Center, but also other things like that. I'm surprised to hear you talk about. It's very cool to see that Protector mentality. I guess it's a real thing, in my opinion. And I think that's kind of everybody should be the first responder in your own home. And I'm not saying to be ready for build a bunker or anything like that, but you should be prepared for violence. You should be prepared for emergencies and medical emergencies and those kinds of things. And the more prepared you are, I feel like the calmer you can become. And I don't know that I've ever, seen you so even. And you've always been confident, but you're a different confident. You're like a quiet confident now. And I love, so that's the warrior mindset that you recognize as somebody who's actually, ready to bring it if you have to, right?
Yeah, well, thanks, man. Yeah, it's something definitely I was looking at this year, and I always just want to kind of improve on something, right? If you're honest with yourself, you want to kind of grow because you hit certain goals, I guess, or whatever. It's just how can you evolve as a person? And one of the big things was okay, well, I got a family now. It's not just me. And we had an incident happen where I was taking the girls to tea time downtown, and that we're in church clothes and they were in nice dresses. So we're going to afternoon tea time on like a Sunday, and Austin at the moment right now, or it did back then, this happened maybe a year and a half ago. It's just overrun with homeless people. It just really overrun. I thought I saw a lot in Chicago. There was just a lot downtown. It was like a scene out of Batman. The hotel we were going to didn't have valet for whatever reason. It was weird. So I had to park in some scary parking garage. And I had to walk the girls. So it was me, Kolsana, and the two girls, all in like, church clothes. We had to walk through like 10 to 12 like homeless people that were smoking meth in front of the Gold's Gym. And there was like a CrossFit class going on in front of the Gold's Gym. It was like these big windows downtown. It was just like an odd scene. But like, I remember having to split, like there's guys on each side of the sidewalk and they were just getting high, looking like bombs. And I felt nervous for the first time in my life. Because if it was just me, not a big deal, right? Like you're in your head, you're 25, you're big, like you're just walking. But I had my kids, my wife with me. I didn't know what to do. I felt kind of helpless. And luckily nothing happened, but I definitely felt nervous. And I was like, man, you can't look scared. You just got to keep walking. But I from then on, I was like, I need to know something. I had no situational awareness. It was bad. And I've heard stories from you, obviously, not to get too deep with those, but like I know what happens. Evil things happen, and I don't know. Ever since then, I was like, okay, I need to get kind of serious with that. And so I bought some of the Sheepdog online classes just to kind of get a sense of what I was kind of looking for, and just kind of filled in the gaps from there. Again, a lot of it is just simple, but like have situational awareness. When you're around, look around. Don't look at your phone. Like we had something happen here in Austin. I guess Tim was talking about it. There's like a kidnapping ring going on at the playgrounds over here where like cars, it's like two cars, and they'll bring their 10-year-old son out to like play hide and seek with the other kids and then lure the kids into another car. If you search for the podcast, it's Kyle Kingsbury and Tim Kennedy. Kyle Kingsbury is another heavyweight UFC fighter, and he talks about it in a community that's not too far away from us. And it's scary. It's scary, right? And like, do I know those things? Do I know how to look for those things? That's what I do. I hang out with the kid at the parks with my kids all the time. I'm not, we're always guilty of looking at our emails, because you're just sitting there. But like I don't want to say ever since then, but I'm usually conscious of stuff that's around, but I'm not looking for that, So I've been kind of focusing on that, like getting a pistol for the house. What if someone breaks into the house? Do I know what to do? Like, not really, It's like, you're not going to jujitsu the guy that has to break it into your house to coming in with weapons, right? So I was just thinking of contingencies. So I bought my first pistol, which I texted you right away, and I didn't realize we were gun twins. I thought that was hilarious. Like, this is the only one that fits my hand. You're like, I got that exact one, or I used to. I'm like, that's hilarious. So I hired a shooting coach to teach me how to shoot, teach me how to draw and to load the weapon and stuff. And Gulsana is going to take the women's course for like Sheepdog, and I'm actively investing into like, what do we need to do to protect our kids and to protect ourselves should anything happen, and kind of like have that sheath sword, if you will. And being responsible for that. And so that is something that I'm actively doing right now. I haven't mastered a lot of it. One of the reasons why I picked up jujitsu again, which I told you about after like 20 years. I've been going, I go twice a day, I think 4 or 5 days a week or something like that. I've been going a lot. But just to kind of get my body back in shape kind of thing.
It's amazing, man. I see a little bit of a black eye here. You see it?
Yeah, Kolsana was on me or me?
Yeah, me.
Oh, I got one right here. Kolsana, like, yeah, it just happens, Maybe because we're older, we get bruised a lot.
There's a great book by Tim Larkin, When Violence is the Answer, I think it is. No, that's a good thing. And like I was saying, like guys, like nobody should be scared listening. Like,
yeah,
it's 1% of the world is violent crime, right? Like 1% of the world. That is like 1% of the people in the world are capable of that. And most can be, I'm not going to get into the size, but most can be dissuaded through your actions, through your situational awareness, situational avoidance, situational understanding. Like that's the cycle that we all speak about, anybody in my community. But there is a point when somebody decides, like atypical, it's called, right? And that's when it's like they're coming for you and there's nothing stopping. That is that terrible situation. It's less than a percentage, it's very low, but can you at least be the first responder? Can you handle things until help gets there? Can you handle things yourself and get yourself out of that situation as fast as possible? It's about getting away.
Yeah,
really, honestly.
Yeah.
Right. It's about getting away or making time for your family to get away and stuff. So, spending some time, anybody interested, Blast Camp is coming again, basic leadership and survival tactics. That'll be at the end of May, the course that we're offering. And I've really been stacking up my team at Tango One Solutions, and I'm like really ready to roll this next one out. I can't wait. And I wish you could come home for it, Randy. You'd love it.
I wish I could participate in it too.
So, okay.
Crossing that border.
So I can't go the whole podcast without asking this, especially because our friends will probably listen to this one. So you have worked some of the worst jobs in the world.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, maybe at a strip club. We're meant to do. That's beside the point. What is the? I mean, I'm talking fucking hundreds of jobs. By the way, I got Randy a job once when we were 17. He lasted 8 hours. But it was a
Cashway. Shout out to Cashway.
Yeah, shout out to Cashway. Hardest job. That's where I first started to grow muscles. Lifting all that shit all day. But anyways, what was the worst job of the 150 jobs you have worked?
It would have to be shot metal sanding. Those
I knew it.
The shot metal sanding had to be the worst. It was the hardest. It was like a coal miner job. So if you guys don't know what shot metal sanding is, it's the plants in Windsor shut down for a bit to redo the floor, because I guess there's some kind of there's some kind of coating on it, and the only way to get it off is to ride this lawnmower device that shoots buckshot or like BBs out to the floor, and it breaks up this paint or this coating, and then somebody sweeps it and vacuums it up. But because you're in the car plant and there's all those robots and machinery, you can't, it's not like a lawnmower. You have to do it by hand, and it's buckets, and it's, if you can imagine how big a car plant is, you have to do the whole plant. So that by far that was the worst. So I would do that. I think I was like working from 10 to 8 p.m. to like 7 a.m. I don't know. I remember getting home in the morning because Mike would go to work. That's when I was living with Mike a little bit. And I'd be covered in dust and soot, and it was all in my nose, and I just, ugh. One thing I can tell you, like when you work a bunch of crappy jobs, it really puts your mindset into like, what can I do to not work this crappy job ever again?
Yes,
it really puts the hump
man.
on you. I mean, you gotta hump a bunch of crappy jobs, and if you're humping a crappy job right now, whatever you're thinking on how to get out, that's probably the direction you should be leading it towards, because there's a reason why it's crappy.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I think that's a great place to end it. I think the name of this podcast for sure is going to be Do the Work. If anybody I know has done the work and meant to see you, like I said, like, you're selling houses, like you sold out Austin, basically, man. And to see you succeed like that, I mean, it's about celebrating each other. And I know that it makes all of us here at home, all your boys here, the Canine Posse, very, very proud. And I'm
glad. That's what I do it for, man. I mean, again, I when from your original question, it's like, who are we as men? Who can you look towards, And like, I see you succeed in your business and doing what you did, and it was scary, right? You started from nothing, and that, like, I remember when we were doing projections. I found an old email where I was doing business projections for you, and I thought I'd send it to you just to get a laugh at it, because like you're smashing those numbers now. It's like, it's good, man. It's inspiring. It's, again, always behind you. I follow all your stuff. I think you know that. I was like,
appreciate it.
You put some random YouTube video up. I'm like.
You get your 10,000 shorts? You make your order?
Yeah, no, I sent you the thing. I didn't get it in yet, but I did order it.
All right, guys, listen. Follow Randy and get your 10,000 gear. Tango 15 this is the best sports performance stuff there is. Get yourself, man. Right now, I think you can double up my code. You can use Tango 15 and another code at checkout and get some amazing stuff, so you can train like a machine. Randy, tactical pants. The tactical pants. Woof, buddy, if you're going shooting, those things are beauties.
Okay.
But anyways, thank you so much for coming on here today. hugs and kisses to your family. I'm just going to hit stop record. And that is it. That's a wrap. Do the work, guys. Do the work. Do more. Be more for yourself and for others.
Now's the time to do more and be more.